Before we begin, a moment of silence for Kavinsky, dearly departed from our earth. Wow, Twitch did not like that. It's getting me some dropped frames for this shit. Oh shit. What the hell's going on here? Oh fuck. Well, actually, yeah, we're hello, welcome back to more what's this game called again? 428 scrambled eggs? Anyways, before we begin, this stream is dedicated to Kavinsky, who I learned just this morning that he passed away in his home in Paris at the age of 50. So please join me in a moment of silence. All right. So, yeah, Kavinsky, like, I'm really fucking sad about that, actually. He was, like, one of my favorite, like, French electronic music producers. He was one of the big ones. Hello, Frufk. So, last time in this game, we saw the explosion. We got everybody saved from it, but then we learned that Maria, she has a bomb in her. No, she has there's a second bomb in there. No, she has a virus in there that could kill all of Shibuya if she goes symptomatic. So it's probably worse than a bomb in her. So this time, I think we'll start off with Achi. You should also listen to, whatchamacallit? His first album, Outrun. It was really good. He's a great musician. There might be some delay because Twitch or OBS or someone decided to fuck up my stream, so you might want to refresh your page. So let's go ahead and start with Achi, because he ran off with Hitomi in his arms. Achi could hear ambulance and police sirens wailing on the main road. He looked down at Hitomi, slumped on a park bench beside him. "You're sure you're not hurt?" he asked quietly, offering her a bottle of water. "I'm okay." Hitomi took a sip from the bottle. "Thanks. I think I've managed to calm down some." Some of the color had finally returned to her face. "So, Achi began hesitantly, inside that minivan." Maria wasn't in there. There was relief in her voice, but also a note of pathos. I got a look in through the windshield. There was a man laid out in the back seat, but nobody else. The dark cloud lifted from Achi's face. So it wasn't your sister? No, I didn't see his face. Just that he was wearing a business suit. Achi felt the tension ebbing from his body. That's good then, and it wasn't her. I'd been worried. It was a shame about the poor devil who had been killed, though. Who was it, and why had he been there? So, I guess we're now out of leads, Hitomi murmured. She hung her head. We could try the surveillance counter again for now, Achi said. It'll probably give us better odds of finding your sister than just walking around. I guess you're right. Shall we then? Hold on. Achi had a sudden flash of inspiration. My house is a lot closer from here. Maybe I should just ask my dad if we can check the cameras from home. You can do that? We have the same system at our house. I'm sure my dad will let us use them. The two got up and headed for Endo Electronics. Achi decided to let his father know that they were coming. He turned on his phone as they walked along. He'd had it off for a while, so he checked his voicemail. There was one message. Wondering who might have called, he played it back. Is this Achi Endo's personal cell phone? This is Dr. Saeki from Shibuya General Hospital. Daiichi Saeki, heart specialist and Suzune's attending physician. Preeminent surgeon who has successfully performed the Batista procedure, wherein the left ventricle is reconstructed after a third of it has been removed. Oh shit. Achi's expression stiffened. He pressed the phone closer to his ear. There's been a sudden change in Suzune's condition. I tried calling your home as well, but got no answer. Achi felt the edges of his vision growing dim. As her brother, it would be good if you can come to the hospital as soon as possible. It's... Achi? Hitomi's voice was full of concern. Sorry, I just gotta make a call here. Fingers trembling, Achi dialed his house. The phone rang several times before switching over to the answering machine. Damn it. Where the hell are you, Dad? What's wrong? Hitomi asked. It's Suzune. It sounds like things have gotten pretty bad. Well, then we need to go to the hospital right away, Hitomi said. She sounded as anxious as Achi was. We can't go yet. Achi shook his head quietly. First, we have to save your sister. Hitomi bristled angrily at that. What are you talking about? She grabbed Achi by the arm and shook him. Right now, you need to be thinking about your sister. I can't. I made a promise to Suzune. A promise to help people and see things through to the end when something important is on the line. He struggled to get the words out. If I break that promise, then I really am no good to her. But Hitomi didn't look like she was going to back down. Oi! Get back here! A threatening shout rung out from nearby. Achi looked around, startled, and saw a boy about high school age bolting out from behind a building on a side street. Several slightly older young men were hot on his heels. Achi knew their faces all too well. They were all members of SOS. They caught their quarry just before he could make it out into the main road. Gotcha, newbie. So the kid they were after must have been a member too. Let me go! Oh, we'll let you go, alright. After you pay up. One of the young men snatched the boy by the collar and shoved him against the wall of a nearby building. Ow! The boy's face scrunched up. What are you talking about? Playing dumb, huh? interjected one of the onlookers. He told you that members all have to pay monthly dues, yeah? The privilege of getting to call yourself SOS doesn't come free after all. Hachi felt his blood boil. SOS was trying to pull a shakedown on this new kid under the guise of calling it dues. Slang for extortion, a fully fledged crime. Naturally, the direct shakedown, "Give me all your money, punk," is quite unpleasant, but more roundabout ways of being shaken down can still leave a bad taste in one's mouth. Someone who was surrounded on the street by 8 people in pompadours who said, "Begging your pardon, but could you please hand over your money," might suffer no physical harm but would still be the victim of a shakedown. It would have been unthinkable for them to do something like this back when Achi was running the show. "Hey," he barked, "let the kid go." He marched toward the group. "Say what now?" They turned to look, their faces immediately going pale. "Oh, hey Achi." "Let him go." Achi focused his glare on the fellow holding the kid until he released his grip. "You guys always go around doing stuff like this?" None of the gang members answered. They merely turned their gaze glumly to the ground. "Hey," Achi turned to the younger boy, "since when have they been doing this?" But of course he realized there was no way the newbie would be able to tell him. "Never mind. You can go." Achi gestured toward the main road. The boy was quick to run off. Achi waited until the boy was gone before turning back to the others. "Does Susumu know you're going around collecting dues like this?" he asked. "Man, we don't gotta tell you that," one of them muttered. "Not since you deserted." "What'd you just say?" Achi leaned in close, getting right in the guy's face. He was met with a defiant sneer. "This ain't the old SOS anymore." "Not the old SOS?" Achi thought back to the other gang member he'd run into earlier with the malicious gleam in his eyes. That guy. Pretty sure he said his name was Kiryu. Back when Achi had been with SOS, he'd never have let a guy like that get away with acting all high and mighty. Suddenly, Achi heard a voice from behind him. "Well, well, if it ain't our legendary founder." An instant later, he took a hard blow to the side of the head. "I was just out looking for some small fry, but it looks like I landed me a big one." Achi's head swam, his vision fading in and out. Before he had a chance to recover, something smashed into his knee. He lay crumpled on the ground, unable to retaliate as kicks and punches rained down on him. Even after Achi could no longer move, the beating didn't stop. His ruptured eardrums could barely make out the sound of Hitomi screaming. "No. If you do that, I'm going to eat you. I'm just straight up gonna devour you like a snake. I'm just gonna unhinge my jaw." "Hitomi, run." With his final plea silenced before it reached his lips, Achi felt his consciousness battered away. Kiryu's ambush. Kiryu turned up out of nowhere and gave Achi a beatdown with a piece of timber. But just before he attacked Achi, Kiryu had run into someone else. That person did something that changed what Kiryu did. The individual in question needs to say something different to ensure Kiryu doesn't go to Dogenzaka while Achi and Hitomi are there. I want to see what Osawa's doing, if he's calmed down at all. I don't want to know how people feel. All I want to know is what viruses feel. I prefer viruses because they make no move to encroach on me from the other side of my microscope. They leave me free to let my thoughts wander as I wish. While it may be true to say I understand viruses, I have never been able to understand my fellow humans. I don't know them. I don't know a single fundamental thing about them. With Tanaka dead, trying to use the backup passwords for the fingerprint scanner had become a hopeless endeavor. The only remaining means of gaining entry to the storage area was to issue an emergency unlock request to the electronic lock manufacturer, and in order to do that, they needed approval from the 6 members of the board of directors. Returning to his study, Osawa called Makino's personal cell phone. "What is it?" Makino said gruffly as soon as he picked up. Osawa informed him of the situation, including Tanaka's death and the fact that Maria was infected. The news left Makino at a loss for words. "Please," Osawa begged. "You need to hold an emergency board meeting." Makino was silent for a few moments. "I'm afraid I can't do that." "Why not? Are you just going to sit by and let my daughter die?" Osawa raged. "Not just her. If Maria goes symptomatic. That was still only an if, but Osawa was reluctant to put his fears into words. "If she goes symptomatic, the Uwa virus will sweep through all of Tokyo." "I realize that," Makino replied. "But one of the board members is overseas on business. Holding a meeting is impossible." Despite the gravity of the situation, he sounded astonishingly nonchalant. Osawa couldn't back down now. "There must be some other option, like a web conference or something." "That doesn't help us if we can't get in touch with him," Makino huffed. "He went missing a few days ago in the middle of his business trip." The head of Akoshi Pharmaceuticals' New York branch has been missing since April 25th, 9 p.m. local time. There have been no demands for a ransom, and so the New York Police Department is investigating the possibility of some other form of foul play. They know. Osawa was almost too appalled to be angry. "That's the most ridiculous lie I've ever heard. Would you like to speak to my on-site contact if you don't believe me?" This was like arguing with a child. If Makino was deliberately working against him, he'd never know if this disappearance was real or not. "In that case, can you please appoint a representative in his stead?" Osawa pleaded. Selecting a representative is a complicated process. Even if we started right now, it would take until sometime tomorrow afternoon to complete. Tomorrow afternoon. By then it would be too late for any of this to matter. "Sir, can't you see how absurd the things you're saying are?" "What would you have me do?" Makino barked. "These are the realities of corporate politics." "I understand, sir. You will do nothing for my daughter. That's what you're saying." "That's not what I'm saying," Makino replied. "Look, I'll see what I can do to appoint a representative more quickly." He hung up. His tone had suggested that waiting for an appointee wouldn't be a terribly hopeful prospect. I have no more allies, Osawa thought. All I have left now are foes. You couldn't count on anyone anymore. Osawa was just going to have to get the antiviral by himself. Tanaka might be dead, but there still must be some way to get that lock open. Taking extra care to avoid the notice of the detectives, Osawa snuck out of the house and headed for the garage. All these dead ends, bro. Get off my dick. God damn it. Minorikawa. Minorikawa needed to get back to the editing office right away, but despite the urgency, he barely stumbled along. He was swaying on his feet, only half aware of where he was even going. No, this is all some sick joke. He just couldn't accept that Toyama was dead. He let out a single lifeless sigh. A cynical smile crept into his face. The man always did insist on having his own way, but killing himself. Back when he was still a novice reporter, Minorikawa had written a piece about a middle school girl who'd committed suicide. The school had made a statement denying that bullying had been a factor, and so most of the media had reported that she had suffered a nervous breakdown over entrance exams. A period of mental illness manifesting as a panic disorder, stress-induced anxiety, or the like. The term is commonly used to refer to serious health issues such as schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, manic depression, as well as the buildup of more minor stresses as part of everyday life. Because it is so broadly and vaguely defined, it is generally avoided in psychiatric contexts. But something about the case had kept nagging at him. Had her death really been a suicide? The more people he interviewed about the incident, the more his doubts grew. The city news editor, however, would not allow him to conduct a follow-up investigation. The reason why was simple. This was the sort of thing that happened every day. They couldn't waste time on a case that was already on the books. It was more important for a reporter to find news stories than to squander time engrossed in a case that was old news. Minorikawa understood the editor's decision well enough, but that didn't mean he had to like it. He'd been sulking up on the roof, slowly nursing a cigarette, when the paper's local news copy editor, Toyama, happened to drop by. At a newspaper, an employee who evaluates the quality and suitability of reporters' copies and coverage. Effectively, the boss of a group of reporters. However, the copy editor typically works under a section editor who has the final say about what makes the page. A middle management position caught between upstart reporters and an angry section chief. Did they say no to the follow-up interviews? Toyama asked. About that girl's suicide? The name of the girl who killed herself was Chiharu Uyetsuki. After reading her diary, Minorikawa became convinced it wasn't an ordinary suicide. 6 years from now, Minorikawa will run into a certain teacher, and the investigation into the student's death will be reopened. But that's another story for another time. Yeah, Minorikawa expelled a plume of his smoke along with a sigh. Nothing tasted quite as bad as a cigarette when he was down in the dumps. So what are you going to do? I'm not going to do anything, Minorikawa said. Editor told me no. Oh, editor said not to? You sound like a child. The rebuff made Minorikawa's temper flare. There are other interviews to do. I want to follow up on this, but there isn't any time. You dumbass! Toyama hauled off and hit him right across the face. What happened to I write what I feel in my heart? That's the one thing that I refuse to back down on. What happened to the guy who used to bitch at me like that? Toyama's words hit their mark with painful precision. The interviews aren't over until you have what you need. No, you refuse to let them be over. You go after the truth no matter what anyone tells you. Isn't that what being a journalist is all about? Minorikawa scowled in chagrin. The man was exactly right. Until you have what you need. Those words had stuck with Minorikawa ever since. In fact, he'd quit the paper to become a freelancer because he couldn't do his job the way he wanted while trapped in that hierarchy. Now he wondered, what if Toyama hadn't killed himself, but had instead been a victim of a terrorist attack? But after considering the idea for a moment, he thought bitterly, so what? The reasons and the details hardly mattered at this point. What mattered was that Toyama was dead. Minorikawa sat down listlessly and stared up at the sky. The blank swath of blue made him feel all the more worn out. Just what had all the days running around been for? He felt so empty, so hollowed out by loss. All his motivation had drained away. He had no idea what he should do next. Hey, Minoru Minorikawa, what should you do? He tried to listen to his inner voice. Stand up. Right now, you just need to forge ahead. Yeah, that was his only option, really. Couldn't just let things end like this. And he still didn't have what he needed for his articles, so Minorikawa took a deep breath, readying to get back on his feet. Before he could, however, a young man stumbled across his path, taking a nasty fall on the pavement. Ow! Damn, that hurts! The youngster scrambled to his feet and turned to Minorikawa with a snarl. What are you looking at, pal? The young man clutched a piece of timber like a club. There was a nasty gleam in his eyes. I'm not looking at anything, Minorikawa sighed. I just happened to be looking in your direction. Shut your yap. Apologize, bitch. Now! The punk raised his cudgel. What for? You tripped me, man. Ain't you gonna apologize for that? The kid had stumbled all on his own, but was probably too embarrassed to admit it. Guess he's got to vent his anger at someone. Listen, kid, Minorikawa said. It's not my fault you're such a klutz. You know, like the pedal in a car that's got manual transmission? Oh, that's a clutch. Okay, so then like lumps of earth or clay. Those are clods, you say? Right, so then we're talking about a sort of social get-together for coffee and conversation? Huh? Ah, right, that's a clash. A clatch. Is it when you try to fix something that's using stuff that isn't really meant for that purpose? That's a kludge? Okay. The hell you just say to me? You got a death wish, pal? With a murderous glare, the punk advanced on him, brandishing his weapon. Hey, Minorikawa! Hey, Minorikawa said. Is it fun hitting people with that thing? The corner of the punk's mouth curled up. Aw, yeah, real fun. Only a dumbass beats people with their bare hands. You just wind up hurting your fists. If you're gonna enjoy some violence, you gotta have yourself a weapon. Ha, I see. In that case, maybe give it a rest with that stick, yeah? Huh? What for? The punk scowled in irritation. Don't get me wrong, Minorikawa said. I'm just saying that there have to be better weapons than that. Something that could take a man down in a single blow. Is this the second time I've gotten... Let me see if this is the second time that I've gotten Achi killed. The kid stopped to consider Minorikawa's words for a moment. I get ya. Yeah, you might be right about that. I think I have just the thing. May as well go with my usual. He tossed away the piece of wood on the side of the road. Don't you go anywhere until I get back, got it? Yeah, sure thing. Minorikawa watched as the punk headed back the way he'd come. Man, he murmured, what a dumbass. Looking around, he spotted a taxi parked close by. It was Kimizuka. Do you need a ride, sir? Kimizuka asked, all politeness as he opened the back door. If you're heading to that publishing office, I can get you there in 10 minutes. Kimizuka's driving was as smooth as always. He wove his way skillfully through a series of back streets. There was some big explosion earlier, he explained. The main roads are all gridlocked. Yeah, Minorikawa muttered. I was there when it happened. Oh wow, really? I'm glad to see you're not hurt then. Still, what a terrible thing, that minivan. I hear someone was inside it when it exploded. I'm not sure if you were aware. Yeah, I'm aware. Oh, nothing gets past a reporter like you, I see. Kimizuka flashed a Minorikawa an approving smile through the rear-view mirror. How much have you heard then? Rumor has it that the person who died was a middle-aged man. Oh. Huh. We taxi drivers tend to hear quite a bit ourselves. Kimizuka chuckled, but Minorikawa just cast his eyes down forlornly. You look tired, sir. Yeah. I guess so. His reply was barely audible. Suddenly, someone rushed out into the street right in front of the cab. Look out! There was a heavy thunk as the taxi crashed into the pedestrian. Oh no. Did I actually get Achi killed, but not in the way that I expected to? Screeching to a halt, Kimizuka and Minorikawa jumped out of the vehicle to find a young man splayed out on the street. Hey! The driver called out. You alright? The fallen pedestrian was practically still a kid, and he wasn't moving. Kimizuka hunkered down and jostled his shoulder. Then his expression stiffened in alarm. Minorikawa checked the young man's pulse, but couldn't detect any heartbeat. Oh no, Kimizuka said. This is... Tears began to well up in his eyes. Minorikawa turned to him in surprise. You knew him? I did. Kimizuka cradled the young man in his arms. I'm sorry, but you'll have to find yourself another taxi, he said. I'm going to turn myself into the police. Looking down at the boy's unmoving form, Minorikawa felt a pang of guilt. No, he said. I'm the one who's been asking you to drive around so recklessly all day. This is on me too. But I'll go with you to the cops. The two men decided to head to the station together to surrender themselves. Probably wouldn't be time to work on writing articles while they were being interrogated, but that was just how it'd have to be. This was the right thing to do. Minorikawa just had to keep telling himself that, knowing that it was the truth. Fucking hell. Minorikawa's day ended in disaster when the taxi he was riding hit a young man, Achi, who ran out into the street. But why'd the kid rush out into the intersection like that? The answer lies in Achi's story. Well, we probably saved Achi by telling the guy to get a bigger club. Let's go back to Achi. Oi, get back here. Now let's get past this dialogue. For some reason my water bottle smells a bit like coffee. Not sure why. Hey, let that kid go. Let him go. Susumu go, man, we don't gotta tell you that one of the men under the nonsense you deserve. What'd you just say? Lean close to the face defines you. I'll do all that SOS anymore. Achi thought back to the other gang member he'd run into earlier with a malicious gleam in his eye. That guy. Pretty sure he said his name was Kiryu. Back when Achi had been with SOS, he'd never have let a guy like that get away with acting all high and mighty. Now it seemed like all these young fellows were ready to follow suit, eager to take him down a peg. Your old news, pal. And your business to tell us how to do things. Ain't your business how to do that. Yeah. Achi felt a confusing flood of anger and sadness that he couldn't quite control. I'm not messing around here, you guys. He grabbed the nearest punk by the collar and hefted him up in the air. Then someone shouted from behind him. Hey, what are you doing? Achi put the guy down and turned around to see Susumu standing there. Mind telling me just what's going on here, Achi? Susumu flashed his underlings a sharp glare. They immediately took to their heels. Just what the hell was going on with SOS? Achi needed to talk to Susumu. I asked what was going on here. There was a threatening note in Suzumu's voice. That's what I want to know. What the hell happens to SOS, man? Suzumu's face twisted with displeasure. You're an outsider now. That's none of your business. I don't give a damn if it's my business or not. When I left you in charge of SOS, You shut your damn mouth, Susumu roared. Yeah, that's right. You left me in charge. So don't you dare give me any lip now about how I run things. The sudden ferocity left Achi at a loss for words. You're not the one busting your ass out there. I am. Susumu stalked towards Achi, his face red with emotion. I've had to work so hard to keep things going with you gone. Do you have any idea what it's been like? Do you know what I've had to put myself through to keep SOS together? There was nothing Achi could say to that. He just kept his mouth shut and let Susumu talk. You were gone. Thought maybe I could do things like you did. All at once, Susumu seemed to deflate a little. He hung his head, hiding his face. And if I couldn't be like you, then... Hey man, I get it. And I'm sorry. But Susumu kept his face averted. Please, he muttered. Stay out of our business. He turned on his heel and headed off without looking back. Achi watched him leave, feeling a painful sting. Achi? Tomi asked after Susumu was gone. Are you sure you're okay leaving things like this? Achi shrugged heavily. Susumu said he's doing what he can. It's not my place to butt in. He turned his back on Hitomi. He still needed a moment. Achi, you're being unreasonable. About what? He felt like he'd been wounded to his very core, and he wasn't sure what to do about it. You want to help people who are in trouble, right? Hitomi asked quietly. Yeah, I guess. Achi's voice was glum. Well, I'm in a whole lot of trouble right now. Yeah, I know that. No, Achi, you don't. Hitomi's tone was clipped and firm. Please, go to your sister. What are you talking about? That doesn't matter now. Yes, it does. Hitomi's shout stopped him in his tracks. Achi, right now the thing I'm having the most trouble with is that you won't go to the hospital. Don't you get it? How can I possibly be happy with you helping me if you have to sacrifice your own sister to do it? Achi couldn't answer that, and he knew it. Please, go to the hospital. I'm asking you to. And I'm definitely someone in trouble, so it doesn't count as breaking your promise, right? I appreciate that, Achi said softly. So yeah, how about we drop by the hospital for a bit? The emotions Achi had been trying to hide now came welling to the surface. We'll go see Suzune, and after that we can go look for your sister. Would that be okay with you? That would be more than okay with me. And at long last, Hitomi smiled at him. Back in sync with each other, Achi and Hitomi headed to the hospital. Shibuya Central Hospital was one of the foremost general hospitals in Japan, outfitted with top-notch medical facilities and staffed by highly skilled personnel. Individuals like Suzune with rare blood types were sent to the hospital from far and wide because of its cutting-edge hematology center. The hospital division that deals with blood, its goal is to provide high-end care to patients with blood disorders, including blood screening, treatments, transfusions, management and supply of blood products, and other related services. Achi asked Hitomi to stay in the waiting area while he headed on into the hospital proper. From the visitor's entrance, he passed by the nurse's station, then entered the cardiovascular medicine section and walked along a row of examination rooms. The cardiovascular system includes the heart, as well as the various blood vessels that circulate blood throughout the body. Cardiovascular medicine deals with heart and blood issues, such as angina, heart attacks, heart failure, irregular pulse, and the like. He walked by the first room as quietly as possible, catching sight of a mother and daughter sitting together in chairs in the hallway. Their mother was crying softly. "Oh, Takuya, it's only 15, she murmured under her breath. The name Takuya didn't ring a bell. It was the only 15 that got a reaction out of Achi. Only 15. Couldn't imagine anything good coming after that. To be cruelly taken away when one was still so young. Achi could feel the woman's pain as deeply as if it were his own. When he reached Suzune's room, Dr. Saeki, the attending physician, explained her condition. The doctor did his best to keep his explanation simple, but Achi was too worked up to process much of what he said. He did manage to wrap his head around a few things. At around 10 o'clock that morning, Suzune had a seizure. For a while it had been touch and go, but finally her condition had stabilized. However, since she hadn't regained consciousness yet, she wasn't allowed any visitors. That was the gist, as far as Achi could tell. "What's your father doing today?" "He still hasn't come by," Dr. Saeki said. Achi wasn't sure what to tell him. It was certainly odd. There was no way his father wouldn't have rushed right to the hospital if he heard Suzune had taken a turn for the worse. No, I don't want to think about that right now. I don't even know how that would be possible. That would be the most hiding in plain sight thing I've ever goddamn seen. I'll give you a call once she's woken up. For now, you can head on home for the day. Alright. Please keep a close eye on her doctor. Somberly, Achi went to find Hitomi in the waiting area. Outpatient reception had closed for the day, leaving the hospital quiet. His footsteps echoed softly in the corridors. Then as he walked along, a peculiar sound drew his attention. It had come from over by the base of a nearby stairwell. Achi took a peek around the corner. The sight that greeted him nearly made him gasp aloud. In the dim light up ahead, he saw Kanan, and she had some white guy pressed against the wall, a knife to his throat. Achi quickly yanked his head back out of view. Could it be? Was this the man Kanan said she was after? Achi had to resist the urge to go charging out there. Some amateur heading in half-cooked might well be more of a liability to Kanan than any sort of help. He heard her mutter something to the man in English. We know nothing about Alfred's background, nationality, sex, age. Achi could just barely make out the words, but since it was all in English, he had no idea what they meant. But we do know that whoever they are, they have connections to Langley. Slang for the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, headquartered in Langley, Virginia. Whoa. I was about to say something else there. Similar to referring to the Japanese government as Nagatacho, the CIA has other nicknames including the Company, the Agency, the Second Government, the Invisible Government, and the Coup Makers. Achi peeked out again, very cautiously, in time to see that the man raise an eyebrow at Kanan's words. Interesting. That doesn't mean you need to threaten me at knife point, though. He flashed her a thin smile. It does, actually, because I happen to know that you're a CIA agent. Technically known as officers, the CIA refers to its own spies as agents. Someone in charge of directing agents is called a case officer. Case officers are stationed at embassies across the world in the public guise of diplomats, soldiers, and the like. No sooner were Kanan's words out than the man grabbed her arm and tried to hurl her against the wall. Just before her head connected, though, she jackknifed her upper body forward, then planted both feet against the wall and kicked off with tremendous force. She used her momentum to launch herself forward, regaining her position with her knife against the man's throat. But during this brief opening, the man had managed to draw a gun from inside his jacket. Now the barrel was pressed tight against Kanan's heart. Achi swallowed the lump in his throat. How about we call a truce? Kanan said softly. She withdrew her knife. Yeah, sounds like you and me are both after the same thing. The man likewise lowered his gun. With a faint smile, Kanan turned her head back on him and vanished down the adjacent stairwell. Achi had no idea what just happened. They'd stopped fighting, though, so this guy probably wasn't Kanan's mastermind after all. If only Achi spoke a little English, he might have been able to follow their conversation. He found himself wishing he'd taken school more seriously. Well, in this instance, you have to kidnap an English interpreter from the base. And you have to Fulton them back to Mother Base. When he looked again, he saw that the man too had disappeared. Hitomi stood up from her chair as Achi hurried into the waiting area. How's Suzune? She asked. For now, she's not in any immediate danger, they said. It's good to hear. But more importantly, Kanan was here just now. What? Why? I'm not sure. I'm not smart enough to figure that out. Achi slumped his shoulders. Huh? What? I'm not quite sure what you mean. Exactly. I couldn't understand anything she was saying. Hell, he couldn't even figure out how to get through to Hitomi. May I have a moment? A voice spoke unexpectedly from behind Achi. His breath caught in his throat as he turned around. Standing there was the man Kanan had been struggling with. What's up? Achi asked. He tried to sound as nonchalant as possible. But the man wasn't looking at Achi. You're Hitomi Osawa, is that right? Ah, yes. Hey! Achi snapped. Keep your distance! He stepped protectively in front of Hitomi. This guy. He's not what he looks like. Achi clenched his fists and adopted a defensive posture. Huh? Hitomi seemed panicked. Achi said, "This might be the person Kanan was warning us about." Oh, you know Kanan, do you? The man spoke without changing his facial expression. She let a few things slip herself. Look, who the hell are you? Achi demanded. The man calmly reached into his jacket pocket. Fearing he was about to draw his gun, Achi braced for action. My name is Jack Stanley. I'm a security assistance officer with the U.S. Embassy. Achi held back his punch as the man held out his ID card. Diplomats are issued diplomatic passports and diplomatic ID cards by their home governments. Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs also issues its own form of diplomatic identification card. The CIA provides such identification to its operatives working overseas to help maintain their false identities. Recharge my lip moisture. Embassy? What does someone from the U.S. Embassy want with me? Hitomi asked timidly. You're being targeted by a dangerous criminal. I'm here to take you into protective custody. Custody? Wait, custody? Achi's temper flared. Buzz off, pal. We're busy here. Busy searching for Maria Osawa? Stanley asked. Achi and Hitomi exchanged glances. I know the full details of the trouble you currently find yourselves in. Well, all right then, Achi said. Then you should know that we don't have time to get taken into custody. I'm afraid you don't understand the situation we're dealing with. We're up against a dangerous international criminal here. Taking reckless action is only going to put her life in danger. Don't be a fool. This is no time to play the knight in shining armor. Hey! Achi was infuriated, but he couldn't think of a comeback. After all, it was true that Hitomi had run into danger time and again while she was with him. Oh my god, words. But I'm already safe, Hitomi insisted. I'm only here right now because Achi's been protecting me. She eyed Stanley sharply. Got Achi with me. I don't need your protection. Achi felt a surge of pride that practically brought tears to his eyes. If Hitomi would have let him, he'd have given her an enormous hug. Stanley grimaced in resignation. All right. In that case, how about I join your search for Maria? I can keep you safe that way instead. I don't know. Hitomi grabbed hold of Achi's sleeve. This Stanley fellow didn't have the most trustworthy face, Achi thought, but he realized that he might be biased after being chased around by foreigners all day. After all, if this guy were really after Hitomi, he'd probably have already made a show of force. Not only did he have a gun on him, he was sufficiently skilled in martial arts to hold his own against Kanan. He'd have no trouble taking down a single unarmed opponent like Achi. Hitomi, I get the impression this Stanley guy's not our enemy right now. Hitomi gave a slight nod. Alright. trust your judgment on this, Achi. Now then, what's the plan from here? Stanley asked. Not wandering aimlessly around town, I hope. There was a trace of snideness in his voice. You can keep your mouth shut, Achi replied. We can wander around town all day if we feel like it. Who can play at the snarky game, he thought to himself. Or Hitomi looked distressed. Very well, if that's what you want, I can stay quiet. But first, I need to inform the police that I have Miss Osawa in my custody. Wait, hold on, Hitomi blurted. That isn't a good idea. Stanley inclined his head. Why's that? Well, since you already seem to know most of the story, Hitomi quickly explained the kidnapper's threat and described the search for the minivan. Stanley remained quiet, listening with obvious interest. I see, he said when she'd finished. Still, when that minivan exploded, didn't that make your promise to the kidnappers a moot point? Hitomi nodded. I suppose it did, didn't it? Let me ask you just one more question. Do either of you know a detective by the name of Tateno? No. We haven't run into any detectives. Yeah, exactly. The only folks we seem to run into are guys who are after Hitomi. I see. The grim expression crossed Stanley's face. Right. I'm going to get in touch with the investigation task force. I'll have them contact your parents for you. Would you mind speaking with them so they can confirm it's really you? Sure, all right, Hitomi said. Stanley got on his wireless and described their current circumstances to the police. Mr. Endo, hold on! Suddenly, Dr. Saeki appeared, running down the hallway. There's something I forgot to tell you. Regarding your father. Oh? Oh. Achi got a sinking feeling. I got a call from him yesterday afternoon, and he asked me something rather odd. Preparations for a transplant. I'm sorry, I'm not entirely sure what you're asking. Saeki clutched the receiver. Daisuke Endo's brooding tone was more than a little disturbing. No, it's all right, Endo said. This is all just difficult to talk about, Doctor. Please forget I said anything. There's just one important thing I wanted to let you know. Yes? There's going to be a brain-dead woman coming your way, probably about 9 o'clock this evening, I expect. Her blood type is Bombay. Bombay was the extremely rare blood type that Endo's daughter Suzune possessed. Any transplant donor for Suzune would have needed to have the Bombay blood type. Since she has the same blood type as Suzune, the transplant itself isn't an issue, Endo continued. The only thing I'm concerned about is whether the procedure can be done within the limited time window. And I hate to trouble you, but I just called because I think it would be best to prepare for the surgery as soon as possible. The more Saeki heard, the more disturbed he grew. It felt like he was listening this man go on about some strange delusion. Doctor, please, just take good care of Suzune. With that, Endo hung up. Achi kept quiet as he listened to Dr. Saeki tell his story. Of course, that was yesterday, and I still haven't heard anything about a brain-dead girl turning up. After all, only God would know when someone would wind up in a state of brain death. But still, there was just something very strange about what your father said. It was as if he was certain that someone was going to wind up brain dead or... Just stop right there, Achi exclaimed. Stanley and Hitomi turned in surprise. They were still in the middle of their wireless call to the police. Don't get me wrong, the doctor said hastily. I'm not trying to imply that your father would hurt anyone. What I'm worried about is your father's mental state and... No! Achi interrupted him again. That's not it! His own words from earlier spun within his head. So long as we have these cameras, this guy has nowhere to run. The security cameras. I'm sure this is the place. The man with the cane. He'd been on the phone with someone. That didn't mean anything. It was just a coincidence. Couldn't be true. Achi searched desperately for some other explanation. That was it! Anyone from the downtown committee could have used the camera monitoring room. Yeah, no one's been by to check today. Nothing wrong with a little nap, yeah? No dice. No one from downtown had been by the surveillance room today. Couldn't be. Couldn't. Achi began to tremble. Is something the matter? Hitomi asked. Achi, you're pale as a ghost. Achi gazed beseechingly back into her face. With just one simple question, he could clear this whole thing up. Please tell me I'm overthinking this. He prayed inwardly before asking. Hitomi? Would you mind telling me your blood type? Hmm? Why do you ask? Please, just tell me. I have a sort of weird blood type, Hitomi said. It's called Bombay. Shit. The last piece of the puzzle fell into place. There was no longer any room for doubt. Achi found himself facing a sad and painful truth. Why? Why? With an anguished scream, Achi punched the wall as hard as he could. But his fist still didn't hurt as much as his heart. Dad, why? So, my leap of logic, which could still be true, is that Daisuke Endo could be Alfred. He is in that much of an unassuming position, possibly, that he could get away with it. But now it's confirmed that, oh, he wanted to kill Hitomi. And Tateno would have been in on it. Oh, dear God. And Maria wouldn't have been able to be that girl because she doesn't have the same blood type as Hitomi. I walk counter to the throng of people heading toward the scene of the explosion. The explosion happened in Shibuya-ku, Jinan 1 Chome, near the intersection of Koen-dori and Organ Hill. There's a gun pressed against my back, leaving me no choice but to continue marching forward. I don't have time for this right now. There's something I need to do. My frantic sense of urgency grows and grows. Come on. The only clue I have left is that name. The twist with Achi's dad is foreshadowed. Oh. Hmm. The only clue I have is that name. The other hazy snippets that have surfaced in my memory provide no answers. Please, just tell me, I murmur. Do you know who I am? When the man with the cane doesn't answer, I stop in my tracks. I'm going to start shouting, I warn him. If you want to find out who you are, then do as I say. The barrel of the gun jabs more forcefully into my back. Once we find Hitomi Osawa, you'll remember, whether you like it or not. Guess I'll have no choice but to keep moving then. Are your memories really that precious to you? The man mutters as we start to move again. I'm taken aback by the question. Well, yes, I mean, isn't that pretty normal? There's a bit of pause before he replies, his voice sad and distant. You're not going to remember just the good times, you know. What do you mean? I mean that sad and painful memories are going to resurface, too. I guess I hadn't really thought about that. But still, whatever kind of memories they are, they're all a part of me. I'm the person I am now because of the pain and sorrow, too. I want to remember. I want to remember who I am. The gunman directs me dispassionately along a series of quiet side streets. Right. Here. I stop at his words. In front of us is an old multi-tenant office building. We ride the elevator to the 8th floor, then use the emergency exit to take the stairs up to the rooftop. A cool breeze blows across my cheek. Sit down there. I do as he say, setting myself on the outdoor air conditioning unit. The man lowers his gun but keeps it in his hand. We'll just wait here for a bit. For how long? He lets out a rueful chuckle. Guess we'll have to wait and see. I decide there's no point in trying to fight with him. For now, I have to hope he's telling the truth, and whatever's coming back will help me get my memories back. If I don't know my past, how can I know what to do about this Kanon stuff or anything else? I stare up at the sky as I wait for whatever this assassin is waiting for. The silence between us is suffocating. Finally, I can't take it any longer. Hey, so I think this is yours. I hold out the notebook I picked up earlier. The man's surprise is plain on his face. Where did you get that? Saw the picture inside. He snatches the book out of my hand. Then he flips through it, looking sad. I'm afraid that another agonizing silence is about to descend when he speaks at last. This is a picture of me and my childhood friends. His voice is low and quiet. We were inseparable back when we were kids. The boy here, he liked to fiddle with machines. Always doing things like taking apart radios and whatnot and putting them back together. He was a total bookworm too, so he got picked on a lot. But I was always there to save him from the bullies. All of a sudden, the guy's in a sharing mood, I guess. Can feel his aura of murderous rage starting to abate. The girl here was the same age as us, but she felt more like a big sister. Whatever stupid things my other friend and I got up to, she was always willing to laugh it off. What was her name? I ask, curious to know more. Kotone. We dated when we were in high school. Oh, wow. But I get the impression from that picture that the other boy must have liked Kotone too. The gunman's eyes eyes widened. You're very astute. Call it a woman's intuition, I say proudly. Then I ask the obvious follow-up. So what happened to you two? Dumped her. The man carefully slips the notebook into the pocket inside his jacket. How come? I ask. I felt it was for the best. He lets out a little chuckle, then stands up and brushes the dust off his pants. He looks strangely lonely. Guess I'm not allowed in there. Where have I heard the name Kotone before? If I've heard it at all. Arriving back at the Shibuya precinct, Kano hurried to the interrogation room. With the investigation currently on hold, he knew that taking any official action would be tricky. If he was going to break through this stalemate, he was going to need Tateno's help. The abduction, the ransom, the attaché case relay, Maria's release, and then Tanaka's death. Maybe Tateno would be able to figure out how all of these elements were related. But first, Kano needed to check something for himself. Tateno would never have let Al-Karawan go free. Kano needed the prisoner to set the record straight. Al-Karawan sat in the precinct interrogation room, looking brazen and cocksure. Buhai Sabong! Cock! Sure! Okay. I got that out of my chest. One glance at his face, and Tateno was reminded of what had happened to Sasayama. Fresh anger smoldered at the edges of his mind. There were two detectives already in the room. It seems he wasn't made privy to the details, one of them told Kano. Sounds like they were following orders carrying that attaché case around, the other added. Kano sat down across from Al-Karawan. There's something I'd like to ask you, he said. You were just paid to do a job. I don't know anything more about that. His Japanese wasn't perfect, but he understood the language well enough. Tell me, how did you manage to escape from Detective Tateno? Escape? I didn't. A faint smile came to Al-Karawan's lips. He let me go free. Liar! Detective Tateno would never do that! Kano slammed the desk with his fist. I didn't have handcuffs on, did I? He took them off for me. This had to be a lie. It's not like there weren't other ways to remove a pair of handcuffs. After he took off the handcuffs, Al-Karawan continued, he pointed his gun at me. Cut the crap! Kano grabbed the prisoner by the collar. But Al-Karawan went on, unperturbed. He kept the gun pointed at me, but he didn't pull the trigger. So that's when I ran. Why would Detective Tateno want to shoot you? Because I saw him. Saw him? Saw him do what? Let me tell you something interesting, Al-Karawan said sardonically. There was that girl who was carrying the ransom, right? Kano pictured Hitomi standing anxiously beside the statue of Hachiko. That guy Tateno was trying to kill her. In a fit of rage, Kano drove his fist into Al-Karawan's face. His colleagues rushed to interpose themselves. Kano, calm down! Knocked to the floor, Al-Karawan gingerly fingered his split lip. And after I gave you such good info, too, he grumbled. Detective Tateno was assigned to protect Hitomi Osawa, Kano shouted. You can't expect me to believe you're rubbish. He lunged around the table, ready to throw another punch, but his fellow detectives held him back. Al-Karawan looked away indifferently. It's your Detective Tenno that you should be arresting, not me. That girl is going to get killed. You need to step in line, pal, Kano bellowed. Kano! His colleague shouted. You're the one who needs to step in line. Go and cool off for a bit. Expelled from the interrogation room, Kano immediately pulled out his cell phone and called to Tenno's number. Please pick up. He clutched his phone tight, pleading under his breath. But Tenno didn't answer. Kano sat down in a chair in the hallway in a bit of a daze. Found himself holding the present Sasayama had gotten for his wife. I have to do something. I just don't know what I'm supposed to do. His restlessness gnawed at him like a rabid animal. Hey, Kano. He looked up to see Kuze standing beside him, his expression grave. I have an update on Sasayama, the director began. Kano swallowed the lump in his throat. It seems the knife went in deep enough to do some organ damage. He's in critical condition. See. Kano bit his lip hard. His handkerchief, red with Sasayama's blood, clung to the wrapping paper of Sasayama's present. Kano peeled it away carefully so as not to tear the paper beneath. What's that? Asked Kuze. Sasayama had me hold on to this for him. It's a present for his wife. Ah, I see. I'm sorry, Director Kuze, for ignoring your orders. Kano's eyes remained fixed on the gift as he spoke. When you get down to it, none of this would have happened if it weren't for me. Some kind of punishment was surely headed his way for acting alone as he had. He probably wasn't getting out on this one with a simple written apology. When public servants are negligent in their duties or violate regulations, they can be punished with a warning, a formal reprimand, reduction in pay, suspension, or dismissal. In the case of a warning, in addition to the remonstration from a direct supervisor, the individual must also submit a formal letter explaining the relevant details and assuring that it won't happen again. But Kuze calmly shook his head. What happened to Sasayama isn't your fault. Don't blame yourself, he said. As far as this case goes, I've been given quite the runaround myself. There was a rare note of vulnerability in Kuze's voice. The higher-ups have barely let any information trickle my way, but they're still ordering me around non-stop. It's a real pain in the ass. Kuze fell silent, ruminating. The quiet lingered between the two men for several moments before he abruptly spoke again. Oh, right. I'd like to get your opinion on something. So, Mamoru Tanaka, who we found in the minivan, you know? What you think? Could we ought to maybe release his name to the media? Kuze had slipped into his childish register. He was clearly exhausted. Let me get in close and lean back a little. After dealing with the kidnapper's baffling actions and too much meddling from the higher-ups, even a veteran like Kuze is just beat. That's not the only reason for his exhaustion. Kuze has a brother, 6 years his senior, who despite being nominally mature refuses to get a real job and shows no inclination to settle down with a family. He walks around town day after day, dressed like a hippie and treating passers-by to songs he's written. Kuze has been worried about his shiftless brother for years now. The guy's become a chronic source of consternation. We seen that guy? God, there's a spot on my lower back that's itchy as fuck, man. Fuck. Like, irritable. Kano was thrown by the question. Man, no, I'm not leaning back. Oh my god. Shit's going down back there. Oh fuck. Oh fuck. Why are you like this? Fuck. Kano was thrown by the question. It was a rare thing for the director to seek an opinion from a mere junior detective. Feels like there's something not too normal about one of Kenji Osawa's subordinates dying, Kuze went on. Kano had the same thought. This felt too intentional to be a coincidence. So here's the question. Should I get the media involved and try to rush for a resolution, or should I be more cautious? What would you do? About releasing the name? Kano asked. That wasn't such a simple thing to answer. There were so many factors to consider. A tired smile came to Kuze's face. Don't think about it so hard. This is just so I have a point of reference. Tell me what your gut says. I can't make that decision, sir. Kano knew he was in no state to make a good call on something this serious. The sad truth was that all he could think about was Sasayama and Tateno. I see. Sorry to ask you such an awkward question. Not at all, sir. Kano dropped his eyes to the blood-splattered gift box again, and Kuze headed back toward the conference room. Shit. On the TV, the governor's press conference was still going on. I've just requested that each of the railroad companies, starting with JR, stop running trains through Shibuya Station until further notice. As far as the roads go, Route 246 has already been closed to traffic. The executive looked pale as he spoke to the crowd. Is there any possibility of a bioterrorist attack? What about the people who still live in Shibuya? The reporters unleashed a barrage of questions. The governor's face scrunched up. As I've already made clear, this is not a complete blockade. Because modern Japan does not have a system for enacting martial law, there are very few ways that the government could effectively quarantine Shibuya. In the case of a potential viral infection, the infectious disease law allows for the city to be partitioned into areas of restricted movement. If the authorities do not want to acknowledge the existence of the top-secret UA virus, however, taking such an action would be rather tricky legally. There's nothing to stop anyone from leaving Shibuya on foot. Isn't what you're describing de facto martial law? Spat one reporter. Marital law? Oh. Of course not, the governor snapped. You should be well aware that martial law is illegal. I couldn't declare it even if I wanted to. If you wanted to? So this is a bioterrorist issue then. I never said anything of the sort. The press conference was devolving into chaos. Kano was unsurprised given the circumstances. Still, everyone was doing their best insofar as they knew how. So why not me? So why not me, Kano thought. Doesn't matter what I do. Just want to be doing something. Just letting time tick by without trying to take action was more than he could bear. Kano. Kano thought about Sasayama's wife and decided to get in touch with her. He called Sasayama's home phone, but nobody picked up. Perhaps she'd gone to the hospital? With that in mind, Kano called up Shibuya General Hospital and asked them to transfer him to Mr. Sasayama, or Mrs. Sasayama. After a little while, the woman's voice came through the receiver. Yes, this is Mrs. Sasayama. Her voice was thin and reedy. My name's Shinya Kano. I work with your husband on the force. What happened? He didn't know what to say. Couldn't find the words. I wish that I'd been there. When he'd gone to make that arrest, he blurted out at last. I should have tried to get there and back him up sooner. If I hadn't been too late. Trailed off, hoping he hadn't said too much. Tasayama's wife answered in her gentle, quavering voice. Thank you so much for your concern. I'm glad that my husband is lucky enough to have a colleague like you. No, I couldn't. I married a detective, Mr. Kano. I prepared myself for the possibility that something like this might happen. But she certainly didn't sound like she was prepared. Kano felt a biting pain in his chest. Your husband gave me something to hold on to for you. I'd like to give it to you if I can. Oh? Well, certainly, but I'd like to stay here by his side today if possible. Of course. I'll head on over to the hospital myself then. I hope you don't mind if I pay you a visit. Of course not. Sorry to trouble you like this. Thank you so much. Kano hung up, then hurried out of the precinct. This is gonna fuck with, oh shit. As he was making his way toward the hospital, Kano spotted a girl sitting on the pedestrian overpass. She looked like she was on the verge of tears. Concerned, he stopped beside her. Are you waiting for someone? He asked. The girl simply bit her lip and said nothing. Are you lost? Do you need a policeman? The relatively low crime rate in Japan, combined with the rather high police personnel numbers in Tokyo, mean that officers, particularly beat cops, often have plenty of bandwidth to deal with more minor issues. Again, the girl gave no answer. Where did you come from? Kano tried. Still nothing. He had just decided to go and call for a female officer when the girl hesitatingly spoke at last. Heaven Publishing. After a little coaxing, she told him where that was. It turned out it was on the way to Shibuya General Hospital, not too far from where they were now. Why don't I take you there then? Kano said. I'm already headed in that direction anyway. The girl seemed a bit reluctant at first, but eventually she agreed to go with Kano. Kano parted ways with the girl outside of the building where Heaven Publishing was located. He noticed that she hesitated to enter at first, but eventually vanished inside. Kano's phone rang as he was about to continue on his way. When he peered at the incoming call display, his heart nearly stopped. There was Tateno's name. Kano quickly pressed the button to accept the call. Detective Tateno? Detective Tateno, is that you? There was a whole mountain of things Kano wanted to ask. Just what had he been doing this whole time? Why had he let Al-Karawan go free? And what had happened to Hitomi? But while he was trying to decide what question to pose first, Tateno spoke. I've secured Maria Osawa. What? The word came out as a startled gasp. Detective Tateno, you have to bring her here ASAP. Right now, she's... Tateno cut him off. You need to bring Hitomi Osawa to my location at once. Hitomi Osawa? Yes. I heard over the wireless that the man from the U.S. Embassy had her in custody. Kano hadn't been listening to the most recent wireless traffic. Apparently Stanley had managed to find Hitomi. But what was Tateno getting at here? Wait, hold on. What for? I mean, why do you need me to bring Hitomi Osawa to you? There was no reply. Detective Tateno, answer me. Please. Tateno replied as if he hadn't heard Kano's questions. There's an office building in Nanpeidai called South Hill. I'll be waiting for you on the rooftop. If you don't bring her, I'll kill Maria. With that grisly warning, he hung up. Kano's hand went limp. His phone slipped from his grasp and fell to the floor. Kano went to South Hill in Nanpeidai alone. The building takes its name from a rough translation of Nanpeidai, the name of the area where it is located. The official name is South Hill Building, but since this is awkward to say, it is frequently shortened. He hadn't brought Hitomi as Tateno had demanded, nor had he reported the situation to Kuze. First, he wanted to meet with Tateno to find out what was going on. He took the elevator to the 8th floor. After that, he had to take the stairs to the rooftop. As he made his way up the stairs, he tried to imagine what Tateno might want with Hitomi. He hadn't noticed anything suspicious about the senior detective in the lead-up to the stakeout at the Scramble. Tateno seemed like the same man Kano had always revered. So why was he doing this? Kano couldn't think of a reason. Reaching the top of the staircase, he at last stepped out onto the open roof. The time for half-baked conjecture was past. Kano would lay his doubts at Tateno's feet. Then, soon enough, everything would become clear. Inwardly, Kano did his best to convince himself of that. A warm breeze blew against his cheek. He took a look around, but saw no sign of Tateno. "Detective Tateno, where are you?" Getting no response, he began to walk around the rooftop, calling out several more times. "It's Kano! I've come as you asked!" "Where's Hitomi Osawa?" Kano whirled around when he heard the voice behind him. There it is. Tateno stepped into view from behind a water tank. He led with him a young woman, bound and blindfolded. "Why didn't you bring her?" he growled. Kano stared in shock. "Detective Tateno, why are you doing this? Is that really Maria?" Tateno responded by removing the young woman's blindfold. There was no doubt about it. She looked very much like Hitomi Osawa. A surge of frustration rushed through Kano. "Detective Tateno, what is the meaning of this?" Kano fought to remain calm. He felt like he was on the verge of falling to pieces. "Bring me Hitomi Osawa, and I'll let this girl go." "Why? What do you need Hitomi for?" But Tateno's only answer was an icy stare. "This isn't like you. It's so weird. The Detective Tateno who I know..." "Who you know?" Tateno cut him off. "What do you know about me?" "I know what sort of detective you are, sir, because I've modeled myself after you for my whole career." The older man's expression remained stony. "Don't you remember?" Kano went on. "That time when you risked your life to talk down that man who'd barricaded himself inside that office? Ever since then, you've been my..." Tateno interrupted him with a sudden burst of laughter. "You really are gullible, you know that? You can only see things the way you want to see them." "What do you mean by that?" "The truth is, I didn't even care if I died doing what I did. That's why I doused myself in gasoline." Tateno's voice had gone low and quiet. "That was no display of heroics. It was more attempted suicide than anything else. I wasn't thinking about the other people still inside the building. Just a coincidence things turned out the way they did. So then if you'd made a single misstep, then everyone in that building might well have burned to death." You're lying. That can't be true. Kano shook his head insistently. I don't have time for this conversation. Toteno pressed the barrel of his gun to Maria's head. If you don't bring Hitomi Osawa to me, believe me, I'll blow her brains out. Please stop this, Kano shouted. But there was no hesitation in Toteno's eyes. He looked like he would really shoot Maria if Kano didn't do as he asked. Hurry up. Bring Hitomi to me. Can't you at least tell me what's going on? Go now, or so help me, I'll shoot. Kano drew his own gun from his jacket. I know you, Detective Toteno. I know there's some meaning behind all of this. Kano's words came out as an imploring croak. You think you can shoot me? Toteno spat. Letting all Karawan go free, taking Maria hostage, this has to mean something. Sweat made Kano's hands slick where he clutched his gun. I asked if you think you can shoot me. I've always looked up to you. You are the sort of detective I want to become. Kano's view of Toteno began to blur as the tears welled in his eyes. Can you shoot me, Kano? I can. Even as he cried, Kano stood resolutely, doing his best to stare down the older man. He set his fingers squarely on the trigger and pointed his gun at Toteno's forehead. Suddenly, the piercing stare vanished from the other detective's eyes. I've got to give you full marks for that, Kano. Toteno smiled thinly. I'll tell you then. I'll tell you why I'm doing this. It all happened 17 years ago. A meth addict had assaulted someone in Shibuya. Toteno was questioning people around Dogenzaka in search of the perp. He happened to pass by Endo Electronics. Oh, hey, Toteno! It was Kotane Endo. Clad in pristine white. Clutched to her breast was her daughter, Suzune, only a few months old. It's been a long time, Kotane said. She flashed a tiny smile. Yes, it has, Toteno replied with a clumsy smile of his own. Are you on the job? Yes, I am. Kotane recoiled slightly at the dour look on Toteno's face. Something the matter? There's an armed criminal hiding out somewhere in the area. What? I wouldn't leave the shop for a while if you can avoid it. But I have to go to the bank to deposit some money. Surely you can have Daisuke go do it. He's away on a repair job and hasn't come back yet. Toteno let out a one-note sigh. I see Daisuke still does things his own way. Alright, let me escort you to the bank. You mean it? I'd feel a lot safer having you with me. Kotane flashed him a smile so wide that Toteno thought he might lose himself in it. Toteno, Kotane, and Daisuke were childhood friends and had gone to school together up through high school. Toteno and Daisuke were always clowning around together, and Kotane was always there alongside them, laughing. It had been quite some time since he'd gotten to walk along Dogenzaka with Kotane. How have you been lately? Well, with a newborn to look after, it's been pretty hectic. But there's never a dull moment. Things have been good. I'm glad to hear it. Kotane was always as bright as a sunflower. Sometimes Toteno managed to convince himself that just the sight of her was enough. Outside the bank, Kotane held Suzune out to him. Toteno received the baby with an anxious frown. What's with the face? I'm not good with babies. I haven't held one very often. Oh, you'll be fine, don't worry. Just hold on to her for a minute while I take care of things inside. All right. He held the baby gingerly, like it was a bomb that might explode at any moment. Kotone chuckled softly. Suzune stirred and squirmed into Tenno's arms. She kind of has Kotone's eyes, he thought. It was strange, the sensation of holding a child. She was so soft and light, and yet such a real and responsive presence. The faint warmth of her body warmed to Tenno inwardly in turn. When Kotone returned after making her deposit, they strolled to a nearby park, Suzune back in her mother's arms. Do you have any plans for marriage to Tenno? I haven't thought about it. Work has me plenty busy. Oh, that's just an excuse, Kotone said. If there really were some woman you wanted to marry, you wouldn't let work stop you. Then I suppose it's because there hasn't been anyone I felt that way about. Really? Nobody this whole time? Yeah, really. See. But still, seeing the two of you like this makes me realize how nice having a family could be. Tenno peered deeply into Suzune's face. Well, if it ain't Tenno. He looked up as a cheery voice cut into the conversation. It was Daisuke. What are you doing here? He asked his wife. I could ask you the same question. Come on, give me a break. I've come to make the deposit for the client. In that case, no need to worry, I just took care of it myself. Thought you'd forgotten about it. Huh? Really? Kotone smiled as Daisuke reached down and carefully lifted Suzune in his arms. Beaming happily at his daughter, he nuzzled up against her tiny cheek. Daisuke, long time no see. Yeah, glad you're doing well for yourself, Tenno. They walked side by side, Daisuke proudly showing off Suzune's drowsing face. What do you think? Adorable, isn't she? Yeah, luckily she doesn't have your looks. Hey now, bad-mouthing me the same as ever, huh? Some things hadn't changed since high school. Why not drop by our place for a bit? Daisuke offered. Ah, sorry, I'm in the middle of a job, actually. Tenno turned to glance at Kotone. And an instant later, Daisuke screamed, Kotone! A man had come up behind his wife, and now held a kitchen knife to her throat. Kotone stood stiffly, frozen in terror. Let her go! Tenno took a step toward the man. The slightly upturned eyes, the close-cropped hair, the thin mustache. All the details matched the description. This had to be the man Tenno was after. Shut your damn mouth! You wanna try and kill me, huh? This lady here wants to try and kill me! The man was babbling nonsense. The reports had said the suspect was a tweaker. Right now, his mind was probably a complete mess from meth withdrawal. Left unchecked, there was no telling what he might do. Tenno shoved Daisuke behind him and drew his gun from his jacket. Wait, don't shoot! You'll hit Kotone! But Tenno ignored Daisuke's shouts and trained his gun on the perp's shoulder. He was confident in his marksmanship. He'd never miss it at this range. Tenno, please back down! Daisuke pleaded, Suzune still clutched in his arms. I beg you! I can't, Tenno hissed under his breath. This isn't someone we can reason with. The assailant began waving his knife about. He could stab it into Kotone at any moment. Tenno had to take the shot now. He aimed for the shoulder of the arm the man held his knife in. Tenno, stop! Daisuke shouted. Don't do this! For a brief moment, Tenno's eyes met Kotone's. He thought he saw her give a tiny nod. Don't shoot! It was all over in an instant. By the time Toteno had the perp subdued, Kotone's white shirt was soaked through with red. With Kotone's death, so too died Toteno's heart. Whatever feelings had lived inside him had been reduced to cinders, leaving only a never-ending need to atone. Countless times he thought of ending his life in order to make things up to Daisuke and his children. The only reason he didn't go through with it was that he knew death would be the easy way out. And so he'd stayed on as a detective. He would carry the weight of his sins with him for as long as he lived. This was the sentence Toteno gave himself. "15 years had passed since Kotone's death. For the first time, Toteno had gone to visit her grave. He was standing by the grave marker with his hands clasped when someone called out to him from behind. Excuse me?" A slender young girl stood there, flowers in hand. Toteno instantly recognized her. Suzune. She looked just like Kotone had back in her high school days. "Did you know my mother?" she asked. "Ah, yes. We were classmates a long time ago." "Oh, really? Thank you so much for coming." Suzune gave a slight bow, then gazed up at Toteno with her big bright eyes. You look just like her." Toteno struggled to hold back the tears. He felt as if Kotone stood before him, returned to life. "My father tells me the same thing all the time." "I'm sure once you're all grown up, you'll be just as beautiful as she was." A forlorn smile came to Suzune's face. "Once I'm grown up? Well, I don't think that's gonna happen. Guess I really do have a lot in common with my mother, including the part where I'm going to die young." "Don't be ridiculous," Toteno exclaimed. "Why would you say such a horrible thing?" Suzune took a step backward, looking shocked to be rebuked by a stranger. My apologies," he said hurriedly. "I didn't mean to startle you." "No, it's all right," Suzune murmured, clutching the flowers close. "Honestly, it's not something I like to talk about myself. But I'm sick, so there's not really anything I can do to change it." "Sick?" "I have a heart condition. A generic expression for illness pertaining to the heart, also referred to as heart disease, includes things like heart failure, valvular heart disease, and so forth. A transplant is the only thing that can help me, but my blood type is a little bit weird, and it doesn't look like they'll be able to find me a compatible donor. The immune system exists to get rid of foreign substances in a body. Often a patient's immune system will attack a transplanted organ, which can result in the organ failing or functioning poorly. To mitigate the risk of rejection, it's preferable for the donor and the recipient to have matching body tissue. In the case of a heart transplant, characteristics such as blood type and pre-sensitized antibodies, human leukocyte antigens, must be screened ahead of time. Then, bowing her head, Suzune stepped in front of the gravestone and clasped her hands in silence. Toteno felt a wrenching pain inside him, as if Kotone were being taken from him all over again. There really was a god, Why would he do such a dreadful thing? Is there nothing I can do? He nearly lamented out aloud. I'll do anything, Suzune. I'll do whatever I have to in order to save you. Tenno clenched his fists as he stared at the grave. Tell me, Kotane, what can I possibly do for your daughter? Please tell me. Please. And so the months rolled on. Everything changed just after 10 o'clock that morning. Tenno was on the stakeout when his cell phone rang. He glanced at the call display and saw Daisuke Endo's name. He hadn't heard from Daisuke in years now. Fearing that something had happened to Suzune, Tenno answered the call despite his current tense circumstances. At once he heard Daisuke was wailing. Suzune had a seizure. She might not come back from this one. Tenno's terrible suspicions had been right on the mark. He felt himself growing weak. Please, Daisuke, you need to shoot that girl you're with. That Hitomi Osawa. You need to shoot her in the head. If we have her heart, we can save Suzune. At first, Tenno couldn't make sense of what Daisuke was saying. Hurry up and shoot! Shoot her, please! Hitomi Osawa was the Bombay blood type. Wait, hold on, Tenno said, keeping his voice low. You want me to kill Hitomi Osawa? Why? He quickly scanned the area. Daisuke, are you nearby? Wait, where are you? Don't worry about that. If you can just render her brain dead, we'll be able to transplant her heart into Suzune. The term brain dead refers to a state where the entire brain, including the brainstem, is beyond any recovery. In Japan, brain death is defined by Article 6 of the Act on Organ Transplantation, which states that brain death can only be declared with the goal of authorizing a transplant, and is subject to the judgment of at least 2 doctors, inspecting the patient according to a preset process at least 6 hours apart. Shooting someone in the head didn't necessarily guarantee they'd wind up brain dead. And even assuming it did, if Tenno shot the Osawa girl here in the middle of the scramble, it would cause a giant incident. By the time the autopsy was completed, the window for a heart transplant would surely have passed. Tenno, shoot her, please! Daisuke, I can't. You know I can't do that. Hurry! It was like his old friend wasn't even listening to him. Look, even if she did wind up brain dead, they wouldn't be able to perform a transplant. But Daisuke kept on shouting, It's fine! It'll be fine! I'll make the transplant work somehow! You'll make it work? Even knowing how ridiculous that was, part of Tenno wanted to know what he had in mind, if anything. Finally found it! Found something we can do for Suzune. Please help me help her. Tenno understood Daisuke's feelings painfully well. To be helpless to stop the suffering of someone you loved, nothing in the world hurt as much as that. I want to save Suzune. Tenno, this is the one thing I will ever ask of you. Tenno could hear choked weeping from the other end of the line. And that sound, something inside him shifted. Yes, Daisuke was right. The likelihood of a transplant happening wasn't the issue. What mattered was that right now he could take action. He could do something for Suzune. He mustered up his resolve, feeling the doubt lift from his heart. For Suzune. For the daughter of the woman he'd loved. Tenno checked the gun tucked inside his jacket, then slowly began making his way through the crowd toward Hitomi. Now you know why we're here. Toteno gestured subtly with his gun, its barrel still pressed against Maria's temple. Kano's own gun wavered in his hands. He was crying inside. There was nothing else he wanted to hear from Toteno now. And now he was sure of one thing. Words were never going to stop this man. Kano, Toteno said. At my age, I've seen all sorts of young detectives come and go. He fixed his lonesome gaze on Kano. And you're about the worst of the lot. Whenever it's time to take action, you immediately do something reckless. Do you know how many formal apologies I've had to write because of you? Toteno let out a heavy sigh. But you know, Kano, because of the way you've looked up to me, you've saved me. And that's the truth. He sounded like a man speaking his last words. Now come on, see if you can stop me. He pressed the gun harder against Maria's temple. Kano took aim at his former hero's lead. Detective Toteno. His finger wavered on the trigger. Shoot him. You have to shoot him. If you don't shoot him, Maria is going to die. He tried desperately to convince himself. I am going to stop you. Toteno looked him coldly in the eye. Do it then. Shoot me. Kano stared right back. He tightened his finger on the trigger. Ah! Shit. Man. That is way, way, way too emotional. Oh my god. I'm like, I feel so fucking small right now. That entire flashback scene is like so intense. So I think I'll do the rest of these. I'll do the rest of these next time I play this game, because I will stop here for the night. I'd like to say thank you all so very much for coming to the stream tonight. I hope you enjoyed yourself as best as you could. And I hope you all have a good night in the meantime, while we sleep on the consequences of our actions. Take care, everybody, and good night. Bye-bye.